He raised twin girls as his own. Years later, he discovers this. Mark Sullivan, a devoted single father, strives to give his twin daughters, Ava and Mia, a life filled with love and stability after the loss of their mother. However, their peaceful life is shaken when a letter from their estranged maternal grandmother threatens to disrupt their bond. As secrets from the past emerge, Mark must confront his late wife's complicated family history and fight to keep his daughters while navigating the complexities of love, loss, and family. Can love and understanding bridge the gaps of a fractured family? Mark Sullivan stood in the middle of his living room, surrounded by colorful balloons that danced gently with the breeze coming from the open window. The sweet scent of vanilla frosting filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of the flowers he had picked from the garden earlier that morning. It was a special day, Ava and Mia's birthday, and he wanted it to be perfect, a moment of joy amid the lingering shadows of loss that had enveloped their lives since the passing of his wife. As he adjusted the streamers hanging from the ceiling, he found himself lost in thought. The vibrant decorations contrasted sharply with the somber reality that had become their life. He remembered the days when laughter filled their home, when his wife would help him plan such celebrations, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Now, he was alone, bearing the weight of their memories and the responsibility of raising two precious girls who were still trying to grasp the concept of their mother's absence. "Dad, can we help?" Mia's voice broke through his reverie. The girls had just come down the stairs, their faces flushed with excitement. Ava, the more adventurous of the two, bounced on her heels, while Mia, with her more reserved demeanor, clutched a small gift bag filled with homemade cards. "Of course. I could use some extra hands," Mark replied, forcing a smile as he gestured for them to join him. "We need to put the finishing touches on the cake and set the table." "What flavor is the cake?" Ava asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Chocolate, your favorite," he said, winking. "But it's a surprise." They laughed together, a momentary reprieve from the heaviness that sometimes settled in their home. As they worked side by side, Mark felt a pang of guilt. He had been so focused on ensuring they had a happy birthday that he had sidelined the emotions swirling within them, emotions tied to the memory of their mother. He glanced at the corner of the room where a photo of her smiled back at them, and a familiar ache gripped his heart. "Dad, can we talk about Mom?" Mia asked suddenly, her voice small yet determined. Mark's heart sank. He turned to face them, kneeling down to their level. "What do you want to talk about, sweetie?" I miss her. I want to know more about her." "What was she like?" Mia's big brown eyes searched his, revealing a vulnerability that struck him deeply. Before he could respond, Ava interjected, "And why don't we ever talk about her family? Didn't she have a lot of relatives?" Mark hesitated, the weight of their questions pressing heavily on his shoulders. He had always intended to share stories about their mother, to keep her memory alive in their hearts, but the pain of his own loss had kept him silent. "Your mom was wonderful," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "She was kind, funny, and had an amazing talent for art, just like you two." "Did she have any siblings?" Ava asked, her curiosity piqued. Mark hesitated again, an unsettling feeling creeping in. "Yes, she did, but it's complicated." He took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "She had a family back east, but we lost touch after she died." Mia finished for him, her tone soft but direct. "Yeah, after she died," he admitted, looking down at his hands, which trembled slightly. "I just wanted to focus on you two, to make sure you had everything you needed." The girls exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. "We want to know, Dad," Ava said earnestly. "We want to know everything about her, even if it's hard." Just then, something caught Mark's eye, a glimmer of light reflecting off a small object peeking out from under the couch. He reached down and pulled out an old leather-bound journal. It was his late wife's diary, something he hadn't touched since her passing. As he opened it, the familiar scent of aged paper wafted up, and memories flooded back. "Hey, look what I found," he said, holding it up. "This was your mom's diary. Can we read it?" Mia asked, her eyes wide with intrigue. Mark hesitated, glancing back at the girls, unsure if he was ready to share those intimate pieces of their mother's life. "I think it might be a little too personal for now, but I promise we'll read some of it together later." Ava frowned, sensing his reluctance. "But Dad, we want to know her story." Mark felt the weight of their gaze on him, the pressure to share the truth about their origins and the family they had lost. His heart raced as he contemplated the secrets held within those pages. "You're right," he finally said, swallowing hard. "We'll talk about your mom more. I promise." As he closed the journal, he felt a mix of fear and determination. Today was about celebrating life, but it was also the day they would begin to unravel the threads of their family's past, a journey that would lead them down uncharted paths filled with questions of identity, love, and the bonds that tie them together. Mark Sullivan stood in the dim light of his living room, surrounded by the remnants of the birthday party he had meticulously planned for his twin daughters, Ava and Mia. The colorful balloons swayed gently in the breeze from the open window, their laughter still echoing in his mind, but a shadow loomed over his heart. He had been lost in thought, wrestling with the bittersweet memories of his late wife. As he began to clean up, he felt a chill crawl down his spine, a premonition of the upheaval that was about to shake their small family. Just as he was about to tuck away the last remnants of the party, his phone buzzed on the coffee table. The message was an unexpected jolt, a letter from a law firm. Mark's hands trembled slightly as he opened it, his eyes scanning the text rapidly. The words blurred together, but one stood out, stabbing through him like a knife: custody. The letter stated that the girls' maternal grandmother, a formidable woman from the East Coast, had learned of their existence and intended to claim them. "Mark," Ava's voice called from the kitchen, oblivious to the storm brewing just outside their door. "Can you help us with the dishes?" Mark shoved the letter into his pocket and forced a smile, his heart racing. "Sure, girls. I'll be right there." He joined them, but the weight of the letter felt like a stone in his chest, suffocating him. As they washed the plates, he tried to keep the atmosphere light, but he could feel the tension gnawing at him. "You two were amazing today," he said, trying to ignore the turmoil swirling inside. "I think you could be professional party planners." Mia giggled, splashing water at her sister. "Only if you're our assistant, Dad." Mark chuckled weakly, but his mind was elsewhere. Would he truly be able to keep them? Later that evening, Mark found himself sitting across from his closest friend, Tom, at a local diner. The smell of greasy fries filled the air, but his appetite had vanished. He stirred his coffee absently, trying to gather his thoughts. "Mark, what's going on with you?" Tom asked, concern etched on his face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Mark sighed deeply, his gaze dropping to the table. "It's the girls, their grandmother wants custody. She thinks she can just waltz in and take them away from me because of her money and influence." Tom rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Have you talked to a lawyer? You can't let her do this." "I don't even know where to start," Mark admitted, frustration spilling from his voice. "I've been doing everything I can to raise them on my own. We've built a life together, and now it feels like it could all be ripped away from us." "Listen, you've got to fight for them," Tom said firmly. "You're their dad. You've been there for them through everything. That counts for something. I know what it's like to come from a broken family. You can't let her take them." Mark looked up, meeting his friend's eyes. He saw the sincerity there, the shared understanding of family struggles. "You're right. I can't just sit back and let this happen. I need to do everything I can to protect them." As the evening wore on, Mark's resolve hardened. He would not allow his daughters to be taken away from him, not without a fight. Driven by desperation, he returned home, determination coursing through his veins. The next morning, he awoke early, heart pounding as he prepared breakfast. The smell of pancakes wafted through the house, and he called Ava and Mia to the table. They joined him, bright-eyed and cheerful, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside their doorstep. "Good morning, girls," he said, forcing a smile. "I was thinking we could go to the park today. A little fresh air might do us good. Can we take our bikes?" Ava asked, excitement bubbling in her voice. "Absolutely," he replied, his heart swelling with love as he watched them beam. But as he glanced out the window, a chill swept through him again, the thought of the looming legal battle hanging over them like a dark cloud. He knew he had to gather his strength, not just for himself but for the girls who depended on him. In that moment, he made a silent promise. He would fight for their future, no matter the cost. As sunbeams filtered through the curtains of Mark Sullivan's modest home, casting playful shadows on the walls, Ava and Mia, the vivacious twin daughters of the late Sarah Sullivan, were still buzzing with excitement from the surprise birthday party their father had thrown for them just hours before. However, amidst the laughter and the colorful decorations, an undercurrent of tension lingered, unbeknownst to them. Later that evening, as the twins sat cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by their new gifts, they exchanged glances that spoke volumes. The thrill of the day began to fade, replaced by a gnawing curiosity about their mother, a topic Mark had always approached with caution. "Dad seemed really off today, didn't he?" Ava said, her brow furrowing slightly. "It's like he was happy and sad at the same time." "Yeah," Mia replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I noticed it too. Do you think he's hiding something from us?" The twins often sensed their father's emotions, a bond that had only grown stronger since their mother's passing. They had shared countless moments of joy and sorrow, yet there remained an unspoken wall between them concerning their mother's past. "Maybe we should ask him," Ava suggested, biting her lip in thought. "But what if it just makes him sadder? Or what if it makes him feel better to talk about her?" Mia countered, her eyes brightening with determination. "I want to know more about her." "Don't you?" The sisters agreed that they would need to tread carefully, but felt an overwhelming urge to uncover the truth. That night, after their father had tucked them in, they lay awake in their shared bedroom, the soft glow of a nightlight casting comforting shapes on the walls. "Let's look it up ourselves," Mia proposed, her voice barely a whisper. "We can use the computer in the morning." "Okay, but what do we even search for?" Ava asked, her mind racing with possibilities. "Maybe something about her family? I mean, our family. I want to know where we come from." As dawn broke, the twins sprang from their beds, propelled by excitement and a hint of trepidation. They made their way to the living room where the old family computer sat, dusted from lack of use. Ava sat in front, fingers poised over the keyboard, while Mia leaned in closer, her heart pounding with anticipation. "Let's start with her name," Ava suggested, typing Sarah Sullivan into the search bar. The screen filled with links, but nothing seemed familiar. "Wait, look at this," Mia exclaimed, pointing at a link that led to a genealogy website. It might have something about her family. As they delved deeper into the site, they stumbled upon a treasure trove of information. There were distant relatives, a family tree that branched out like a sprawling oak, and photographs that brought their mothers past to life. "Look at this picture," Mia gasped, clicking on a photo that had an older woman, strikingly similar to their mother, standing alongside a young girl. "That must be Grandma. Why didn't Dad ever tell us about her?" Ava frowned, her mind racing. "Maybe he doesn't want us to feel connected to them," Mia theorized, her voice filled with both excitement and confusion. "But we are connected. She's our family too." Just then, Mark walked into the room, a warm smile on his face that quickly faded as he saw the twins huddled over the computer. "What are you two up to?" he asked, masking his concern with a lighthearted tone. "Just looking at pictures of Mom," Ava replied, her voice a mixture of innocence and defiance. "Did you know she had a family? Like a whole family we don't know about?" Mark's heart sank at the question, his mind racing to find the right words. Yes, I did know that. But why didn't you tell us?" Mia interrupted, her eyes wide with a mix of hurt and curiosity. "We want to know about her. We want to know about them." Mark sighed, feeling the weight of their accusations. "It's complicated, girls. I wanted to protect you. I thought it was best to focus on the good memories we had together. But we're old enough to know." Ava insisted, her voice rising slightly. "You're not protecting us by hiding things. We're not kids anymore." Mark felt a pang of guilt as he looked at his daughters, their faces filled with confusion and yearning. "You're right," he said, his voice softening. "I should have shared more with you. It's just hard for me. I didn't want to burden you with the past." The twins exchanged glances, their frustration mixed with empathy. "We don't want to be burdened," Mia said softly. "We just want to understand." Mark nodded, understanding the depth of their desire to connect with their mother's legacy. "Okay, let's talk about it." Just know that your mother loved you so much. And I promise we'll find a way to learn about her family together." As the girls smiled, feeling reassured, they knew they were on the verge of uncovering a deeper connection to their mother, one that would bind them even closer as a family. Mark sat on the edge of the dining table, a mixture of dread and determination swirling inside him. The sunlight filtered through the window, casting soft shadows across the room, but he couldn't shake off the heaviness in his heart. Ava and Mia had just confronted him, their eyes wide with curiosity and hurt. They were no longer the blissfully unaware little girls he had sheltered from the world's harsh realities. They were growing, questioning, and he felt the weight of his secrets pressing down on him like an anchor. "Why didn't you tell us?" Ava's voice trembled, a mixture of confusion and betrayal. "We found pictures of Grandma. Why didn't you say anything about her?" Mark took a deep breath, feeling the walls of his carefully constructed world begin to crumble. "I was trying to protect you," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't want you to feel like you didn't belong with me. I thought it was better this way." Mia crossed her arms, her brow furrowed in defiance. "But you didn't even give us a choice. We deserve to know who we are, Dad. You can't just keep everything from us." He looked down at the table, ashamed. "I know," he whispered. "I know I should have told you sooner. Your mother, she had her reasons for keeping her family a secret. I thought if I could just focus on us, we could be happy. But it's not fair to you. Why did you marry her if she was hiding all this?" Mia pressed, her voice rising slightly. Mark's heart sank further. He could see the hurt reflected in their eyes, the painful realization that their lives had been built on half-truths. "I loved your mother more than anything," he said, his voice gaining strength. "She was my everything. But she had a complicated past, one that she struggled with. I thought by starting fresh, we could build a new life together. I didn't want her family's issues to come between us." Ava's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "But now we have to deal with it anyway. What if Grandma takes us away?" she asked, her voice breaking. Mark felt a rush of guilt sweep over him. He had built a life for them, filled with love and creativity, but now the specter of his wife's family loomed large. "I won't let that happen," he bowed, his voice steady. "I will fight for you both, no matter what it takes." "You mean everything to me." Mia shook her head. "You can't just say that. You have to show us you mean it. You have to be honest with us from now on." Mark nodded, tears pooling in his eyes. "You're right. I promise to be honest. I should have trusted you enough to share this part of our lives. I can't change the past, but I can be better moving forward." Ava leaned closer, her small hand reaching out to touch his. "We just want to know the truth. We want to know about Mom's family. It's a part of us too." He felt a pang of sorrow at the thought of his wife. "Your mother was a beautiful person, and she loved you both so much. I know she wanted to reconnect with her family, but she feared the consequences." Mark turned away, his mind racing back to the diary he had found, filled with secrets and dreams unrealized. "She wrote about wanting to introduce you to her family, hoping one day you would understand." "I should have honored that wish," he confessed, his heart heavy with regret. Mia looked up at him, her expression softening. "What if we could still do that? What if we could know them and still be with you?" Mark's heart swelled at the thought, but the fear of what lay ahead loomed large. "It won't be easy. Your grandmother, she's powerful, and she believes in the family legacy. But if you want this, if you truly want to connect with her, I will support you. We'll face it together." The room fell silent as the gravity of their situation settled around them. Mark could feel the tension in the air, a mixture of hope and fear. He realized that this moment, filled with honesty and vulnerability, was a turning point for their family. "I love you both," he said finally, his voice filled with emotion. "No matter what happens, you are my daughters, and that will never change." Ava and Mia wrapped their arms around him, and for a brief moment, he felt the warmth of their bond, a reminder that love could triumph over the darkest uncertainties. In that embrace, Mark understood that while the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, they would face it as a family together. Mark Sullivan sat at his kitchen table, papers scattered before him like fallen leaves. The late afternoon sun filtered through the window, casting a warm glow over the cluttered space. His heart raced as he stared at the letter from the attorney, the words blurring together as the reality of his situation sank in. The Avu, the imposing matriarch of his late wife's family, was seeking custody of Ava and Mia. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach, a mix of disbelief and fear. "What am I going to do?" he murmured to himself, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Just then, his phone buzzed on the table, breaking the heavy silence. It was Sarah, his closest friend and confidant. Mark quickly swiped to answer. "Hey Mark, you sound off. What's going on?" "Sarah, it's the Avu," Mark stammered, his voice breaking. "She's trying to take the girls away from me." There was a pause on the other end, a moment of shocked silence before Sarah replied, "Oh my God, Mark. Have you spoken to anyone about this? You need to fight for them." "I know," he sighed, feeling the weight of her words. "But it's not just about the law, it's about family. I don't know what I'm up against. She has money, influence, everything." "Listen to me," Sarah urged, her tone firm. "Your love for those girls is your greatest weapon. You've raised them, you know them, and they know you. You have to make that count. You're their dad." Mark took a deep breath, her words igniting a flicker of determination within him. "You're right. I can't just roll over. I need to prepare myself." "Good. Start gathering everything. Photos, documents, anything that shows the life you've built together." "I'll help you," Sarah offered, her voice full of resolve. "Thank you," he said, feeling a rush of gratitude. I want to protect them. They deserve to know they're loved." That night, as the house settled into an uneasy quiet, Mark sat on the floor of the girls' bedroom, surrounded by drawings and crafts that Ava and Mia had made over the years. He picked up a crayon drawing of their family, with stick figures that looked like him, the girls, and their mother, who had been so full of life. "What would you do?" he whispered to the drawing, his heart aching. Just then, the door creaked open, and Ava peeked her head in. "Daddy?" she asked softly, sensing his distress. "Hey, sweetheart," he replied, forcing a smile. "What are you doing up? I heard you talking on the phone. Are you okay?" she asked, stepping into the room, her big brown eyes filled with concern. Mark swallowed hard, not wanting to burden her with the weight of adult worries. "I'm fine. Just thinking about some things. Can we help?" Mia chimed in, her twin sister following closely behind. "We can do anything together." He chuckled lightly, the warmth of their presence momentarily easing his heartache. "You two are my greatest helpers. We'll figure things out together, I promise." The girls exchanged glances, sensing the underlying tension. "Is it about the Avu?" Mia asked, tilting her head slightly. Mark nodded, his heart heavy. "She wants to see you more, and it's complicated." "Complicated?" Ava echoed, crossing her arms. "Does that mean she wants to take us away?" Mark looked at them, the weight of his silence heavy in the air. He couldn't lie to them. "It's possible, but we're going to fight for each other. You're my girls, and nothing can change that. Why doesn't she just understand that we love you?" Mia said, her voice rising in frustration. "I don't know, honey. Some people just don't see the same things we do," he explained gently. "But you know what? I believe that love can win." The twins nodded, their expressions resolute. "Then we'll help you fight," Ava declared, a fierce determination shining in her eyes. "Yeah, we'll write letters," Mia added, bouncing on her toes excitedly. "We can tell the judge how much we love you and want to stay here." Mark felt a swell of pride, his heart swelling with the love he felt for his daughters. "That's a great idea. Let's do it together." As the three of them sat down at the table, Mark could see the determination in his daughters' faces. They would not back down without a fight. Together, they would stand united against the storm that threatened to tear them apart. With every word they wrote, he felt a renewed sense of hope. The bond they shared was their greatest treasure, and he would do everything in his power to protect it. The courtroom was a stark contrast to the warmth of the home Mark had built with his daughters. The walls were cold, the atmosphere tense with anticipation. Mark sat at the plaintiff's table, his heart pounding in his chest. He glanced at Ava and Mia, who were seated behind him, their small faces etched with concern. They had dressed up for the occasion, trying to project confidence, but Mark could see the uncertainty in their eyes. He felt a surge of determination wash over him. He would do anything to protect them. The judge entered, and the atmosphere shifted. Everyone stood, and Mark felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on his shoulders. He had spent countless nights preparing for this day, practicing what he would say, how he would present himself. But now, as he faced the reality of the situation, doubt crept in. The opposing counsel, representing the girl's grandmother, was already seated, a poised figure who radiated power and influence. The lawyer stood, adjusting his glasses, the glint of confidence clear in his demeanor. Your Honor, I would like to present evidence that showcases the substantial resources and stability my client can provide for the children, he began, his voice smooth and authoritative as he gestured to a series of photographs depicting lavish homes, family gatherings, and a lifestyle that Mark could only dream of providing. Mark felt his heart sink as the lawyer continued, showcasing the grandmother's wealth and influence, painting a picture of a life filled with opportunity and privilege. These children deserve a future that reflects their heritage, the lawyer concluded, looking toward the judge with a satisfied smile. Mark clenched his fists beneath the table, trying to suppress the rising tide of frustration and helplessness. Then it was Mark's turn. Rising from his seat, he felt the weight of his daughter's eyes on him, urging him to speak from his heart. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. Your Honor, he began, his voice trembling slightly but growing stronger with each word. I may not have wealth or status, but I have something far more valuable, love and commitment. Ava and Mia are my entire world. He glanced back at his daughters, who smiled encouragingly, and for a moment, he was reminded of all the moments they had shared together. The laughter, the tears, the art projects that had adorned their walls. Since my wife passed away, I've dedicated my life to raising these girls. I've sacrificed everything to ensure they have a nurturing home, filled with love and creativity. He paused, collecting himself, as he noticed the judge leaning forward, intrigued. Every night, we paint together, explore the world through art, and discuss our dreams. I may not be able to provide them with a mansion, but I can give them a home where they feel safe and cherished. Mark felt a wave of vulnerability wash over him. I know I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but I promise you, Your Honor, I would do anything for my daughters. I want to give them the strength to follow their passions and the courage to embrace who they are. He noticed a few people in the courtroom shifting in their seats, and he continued, his voice gaining momentum. We might not have luxury, but we have each other. And that bond, our bond, is irreplaceable. I can't imagine what it would do to them to be separated from me. They need me, just as much as I need them. As silence filled the courtroom, Mark could feel the weight of every word he had spoken. He looked at the judge, who seemed to be considering his words carefully. Mark's eyes flicked to Ava and Mia, who were now leaning forward, their expressions a mix of pride and concern, their hearts tethered to his. In that moment, he realized that it wasn't just about winning the case. It was about showing his daughters the true meaning of family, love, and resilience. The courtroom might have been filled with wealth and influence, but in this battle, the true riches were the connections he had forged with Ava and Mia, the laughter they shared, and the dreams they nurtured together. As he took his seat, the courtroom remained quiet, the tension palpable. Mark knew that whatever happened next, he had fought for what truly mattered. After the tense courtroom hearing, Ava and Mia felt a mix of fear and determination. They exchanged glances, silently agreeing on what they needed to do. As they walked toward their grandmother, the imposing figure that had just tried to take them away, their hearts raced. Do you think she'll listen? Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ava shrugged, her eyes fixed on the woman who was their only connection to the family they had just begun to uncover. We have to try. We can't let her just take us without saying anything. The girls approached their grandmother, who stood with an air of authority, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. What do you want? She asked, her tone cool and dismissive. Ava stepped forward, her courage bolstered by the thought of her father, fighting for them with every ounce of his being. We want to talk to you. About everything. The grandmother raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by the audacity of the girls. You think you can just waltz up to me and demand a conversation? You're just children. Mia took a deep breath, summoning her strength. We're not just children. We're your granddaughters. And we have questions. Questions about Mom. About why you didn't come for us before. The old woman's expression softened slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Your mother, she made choices. Choices that led to her death. But she loved you, didn't she? Ava pressed, her voice steady. Why didn't you try to find us after she died? We didn't even know you existed until now. The grandmother hesitated, her formidable demeanor wavering. I had my reasons, she replied, her voice losing some of its edge. I thought it was better this way. I didn't want to intrude. Better for who? Mia shot back, anger spilling over. You didn't think about us. We've been living with our dad, and he's done everything he can to give us a good life. But we deserve to know about our family. The grandmother's gaze fell to the ground, her expression shifting from anger to something more vulnerable. You're right, she admitted quietly. I lost my son too. It shattered me. I thought keeping my distance would protect you. Ava's eyes widened at this revelation. You lost a child? Just like we lost our mom. The grandmother nodded slowly, tears welling in her eyes. Yes, and I know that pain. It's unbearable. Mia took a step closer, her heart softening. We're hurting too. We want to understand where we came from. We want to know you if you'll let us. In that moment, the walls that had separated them began to crumble. The grandmother looked at the girls, truly seeing them for the first time, not just as extensions of her deceased daughter, but as unique individuals with their own hopes and fears. I never meant to hurt you, she said, her voice trembling. I was so consumed by my grief that I thought distancing myself would be best for you. But I see now how wrong I was. Ava felt a mix of compassion and frustration. We want to know our mom's story. We want to know about you too. We can't build a family on secrets. The grandmother took a deep breath, nodding slowly. You're right. I have so many stories to share about your mother. She was vibrant, full of life. I wanted to protect her legacy, but I see now that keeping you away was not the answer. Mia glanced at Ava, who nodded encouragingly. Can we start over? We want to know you. We want to know our family. The grandmother's face softened further, a glimmer of hope breaking through the sadness. Yes, I'd like that. I'd like that very much. As the tension faded, the girls felt a new sense of possibility. They stood there, not just as granddaughters, but as a bridge between their father and their grandmother, ready to forge a new path forward. In that moment, they understood that even through pain and loss, there was still room for connection, healing, and love. As days turned into weeks, a tentative yet promising connection began to blossom between Mark and the girls' grandmother, Evelyn. It started with simple exchanges, a hesitant phone call here and there, but soon they found themselves sharing stories about Lucy, the girls' late mother. One sunny afternoon, Mark invited Evelyn to their home for coffee. As he brewed a fresh pot of coffee, he glanced nervously at the clock. He wasn't sure how this meeting would unfold, but he hoped it would bring them closer. When she arrived, he greeted her with a warm but cautious smile. Thank you for coming, Evelyn, he said, gesturing for her to take a seat at the kitchen table. It's my pleasure, Mark, she replied, her voice steady, yet there was an underlying tension. As they sat across from each other, the aroma of coffee filled the air, mingling with the faint sound of Ava and Mia playing in the next room. Can I ask you something? Evelyn began, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her coffee cup. What was Lucy like as a child? Mark took a moment to gather his thoughts, the memories flooding back like a bittersweet tide. She was adventurous, he said with a smile, always painting or sketching something new. She had a wild imagination. I remember she once painted the entire garage to look like a castle. Evelyn chuckled softly, the tension easing slightly. That sounds like her. She always had a flair for the dramatic. As they exchanged stories, they began to uncover more of Lucy's life, the pranks she pulled, her dreams of becoming an artist, the way she would light up a room with her laughter. Each shared memory chipped away at the barriers between them, replacing suspicion with understanding. Do you think the girls would like to know more about their mother? Evelyn asked cautiously, her eyes searching Mark's for reassurance. Absolutely, he replied, his voice firm. They deserve to know who she was. It's part of their identity. As the days progressed, Mark and Evelyn found themselves communicating more frequently. They began to share photos, old letters, and cherished memories. Mark would send Evelyn photographs of Ava and Mia's artwork, and in return, she would share stories from her own childhood, revealing another side of Lucy's lineage. One afternoon, while they were on a video call, Evelyn held up an old, weathered photo album. "I found this in the attic," she said, her voice full of nostalgia. "It's filled with pictures of Lucy growing up. Would you like to see it?" "Of course," Mark exclaimed, leaning closer to the screen. "Let me grab the girls." He called Ava and Mia into the room. Their curiosity piqued. "Look what Grandma Evelyn has for us," he said, smiling brightly. Evelyn opened the album, revealing a collection of images that captured Lucy's life, from her first steps to her high school graduation. "This was Lucy's first art show," Evelyn said, pointing to a picture of a young Lucy standing proudly beside her artwork. "Wow, she was so talented," Mia exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. "Did she really paint all of these?" "Yes, she did," Evelyn replied, her heart swelling with pride. "She always had a passion for art, just like you two." As the girls flipped through the pages, they started to see their mother not just as a distant memory, but as a vibrant person who had dreams and aspirations. "Why didn't you ever tell us about her, Dad?" Ava asked, a hint of confusion in her voice. Mark sighed, realizing the weight of his choices. "I didn't want to overwhelm you. I thought it would be easier to focus on the present. But now we want to know," Mia insisted, her enthusiasm palpable. "We want to know everything." Mark glanced at Evelyn, who nodded encouragingly. "Then let's make it a family project," she suggested. "We can gather more stories and even make a scrapbook together. It'll be a way to celebrate Lucy. Can we?" Ava asked, her eyes lighting up. "Absolutely," Mark replied, his heart lifting at the thought of building something meaningful together. And so the project began. Mark, the girls, and Evelyn started organizing regular family meetings, where they would share stories, sort through old photographs, and even collaborate on art inspired by Lucy's work. It was a time of healing and bonding, as they began to weave a tapestry of the past, rich with love and understanding. During one of their sessions, while they were painting together, Mia looked up and said, "I feel like we're getting to know her more and more. It's like she's here with us." Mark smiled, his heart full. "She is here, in every stroke of your brush." Evelyn watched the girls paint, her heart swelling with a mixture of nostalgia and hope. The path toward reconciliation was still long, but now, it was paved with shared memories and newfound connections, revealing that their family bond, however unconventional, was deepening with every moment spent together. The dining room was aglow with the soft light of candles flickering on the table, where a feast had been laid out, a colorful spread of comfort food that Mark had lovingly prepared. Ava and Mia were bustling around, setting the table with an eagerness that mirrored their excitement. It was a rare occasion. Their grandmother, whom they had only recently begun to understand, was joining them for dinner. "Do you think she'll like the mashed potatoes?" Ava asked, her brow furrowed in concern as she placed a bowl on the table. "Of course. Who doesn't love mashed potatoes?" Mia replied, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Especially when they're made by the best dad in the world." Mark chuckled, his heart swelling at their enthusiasm. "Well, I don't know about the best, but I can certainly promise they're made with love." The doorbell rang, and a hush fell over the room. Mark exchanged a glance with the girls, who were both holding their breath in anticipation. He took a deep breath to steady himself. The presence of their grandmother still felt new and fragile, like a delicate thread that could snap at any moment. As he opened the door, he was met with the sight of the imposing figure of his mother-in-law. Her silver hair was neatly styled, and she wore a soft, elegant dress that contrasted with the steely determination in her eyes. "Mark," she said, her voice a measured tone, "thank you for the invitation." "Please, come in," he replied, stepping aside to allow her entry. "We've prepared a little something special." The aroma of the meal wafted through the air, and for a moment, the tension seemed to dissipate as they settled around the table. Mark poured glasses of sparkling cider for everyone, and they raised their glasses in a tentative toast. "To family," he said, his voice steady. "To family," the girls echoed, their eyes darting between Mark and their grandmother, who merely nodded in acknowledgement. As they began to eat, the conversation flowed tentatively at first, with small talk about the weather and the girls' school projects. But it wasn't long before the atmosphere shifted, and Mark felt it was time to delve deeper. "Do you remember anything about your daughter?" he asked cautiously, glancing at the girls who were listening intently. The grandmother's expression softened slightly. She was a bright light, always full of dreams and laughter. She wanted to reconnect with our family, but life took her away too soon. Her voice trembled as she spoke, revealing a vulnerability that Mark had not expected. "Mom, we found some old pictures of her," Mia interjected, her curiosity piqued. "Can we see them? We want to know everything about her." The grandmother hesitated, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I have an album," she said quietly, "but it's hard for me to look at those memories." "Please," Ava urged, her voice gentle but firm. "We want to understand her, to know who she really was." With a deep sigh, their grandmother stood up and retrieved a weathered photo album from her bag. As she placed it on the table, Mark could see her hands tremble. The girls leaned forward, their eyes wide with anticipation. "Here," she said, flipping it open to reveal a collage of memories. The first few pages showed a young woman with a radiant smile, her eyes bright and full of life. "That was your mother," she explained softly, her voice tinged with nostalgia. As the girls pored over the photographs, Mark watched the interaction unfold. The room was filled with the sound of rustling pages, punctuated by the girls' gasps of excitement and wonder. "Look at her in this one," Mia exclaimed, pointing at a picture of their mother at a beach, the sun setting behind her. "She looks so happy." "She was," their grandmother replied, her voice thick with emotion. "She always loved the ocean. It reminded her of freedom and possibilities." Mark felt a swell of gratitude for this moment, the connection that was forming before his eyes. But as the meal continued, the atmosphere shifted once again. The grandmother cleared her throat, her face serious. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened," she began, her gaze shifting from the girls to Mark. "And I've come to a decision." Mark's heart raced. "What is it?" "I've realized that love is more important than wealth or status. I can't take your girls away from you. They belong with you." The room fell silent as her words hung in the air. Ava and Mia exchanged glances, their faces lighting up with hope. "Are you sure, Grandma?" Ava asked carefully, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am," she replied, her voice steadying as she looked into the eyes of her granddaughters. "I want to be part of your lives, but I understand that you have a bond with your father that is irreplaceable." Tears brimmed in Mark's eyes as he felt a weight lift off his shoulders. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This means the world to us." The girls sprang up from their seats and enveloped their grandmother in a warm embrace, and for the first time since they had met, Mark felt a sense of unity blossoming among them. It was a fragile truce, perhaps, but it was built on love, understanding, and the shared memories of the woman who had brought them together. With a newfound sense of unity, Mark, Ava, Mia, and their grandmother, Eleanor, found themselves embracing a reality that was once shrouded in tension and uncertainty. The air was thick with the scent of freshly baked cookies as they gathered in Mark's modest kitchen, sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating the warmth that had begun to envelop them. "Can you believe it? We're actually going to have a birthday party together," Ava exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She busily arranged colorful streamers, her mind racing with ideas for the upcoming celebration. Mia, sitting at the kitchen table, was sketching designs for the invitation cards, her pencil dancing across the paper. Eleanor watched them with a mixture of nostalgia and joy. "I still can't believe I'm here with you two," she said, her voice tinged with emotion. "It feels like a dream. I never thought I'd have the chance to be part of your lives again." Mark leaned against the counter, a soft smile on his face as he observed the scene unfolding before him. "You know, it's amazing how quickly things can change. Just a few months ago, we were caught in a whirlwind of legal battles and misunderstandings." Eleanor nodded, her gaze shifting to Mark. "I owe you an apology, Mark. I was so focused on protecting my family's legacy that I forgot about the most important thing, love. You've given Ava and Mia a beautiful life, and I respect that. Mark felt a warmth spread through him at her words. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth every moment. They mean the world to me. Just then, Mia looked up from her sketchbook, her brow furrowed in thought. Grandma, can you tell us more about Mom? I want to know everything. I want to understand where we came from. Eleanor's heart swelled at the request. Of course, sweetheart. Your mother was a remarkable woman. She had this incredible spirit, always dreaming big and wanting to connect with everyone around her. Ava chimed in. Did she really want to bring the family together? I remember Dad saying that. Yes, Eleanor replied, her voice softening. Your mother wanted us all to be united. She believed that family is what truly matters, no matter the distance. I lost sight of that for a while, but I'm here now, ready to make up for lost time. As they continued to prepare for the party, the bonds among them grew stronger. They shared laughter and stories, weaving a tapestry of memories that included both Mark's life with the girls and Eleanor's reflections on her daughter. Later that week, the day of the birthday party arrived. Balloons floated gently in the warm summer breeze, and the backyard was transformed into a festive wonderland. Friends and family gathered, their laughter mingling with the sounds of children playing. Mark watched as Ava and Mia darted around, their eyes wide with joy. He turned to Eleanor, who stood beside him, a proud smile on her face. Look at them. They're so happy, he said, his voice full of emotion. Eleanor nodded, her heart swelling with pride. It's beautiful, Mark. I never thought I would witness this moment, where our family can come together. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. Just then, Ava and Mia rushed over, their faces flushed with excitement. Grandma, come help us with the cake, they shouted in unison. Eleanor chuckled, following them with a newfound eagerness. As they gathered around the table adorned with a vibrant cake, the girls grinned mischievously. Make a wish, they urged, their voices bubbling with enthusiasm. Mark watched the scene unfold, his heart filled with gratitude. He realized that the journey they had taken, filled with struggles and revelations, had led them to this moment, a moment of connection, love, and healing. Here's to new beginnings, Mark said, raising a glass of lemonade in a toast. To family, the girls and Eleanor echoed, their voices harmonizing with a sense of belonging that had finally come to fruition. As they stood together, surrounded by laughter and love, Mark felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. He knew that despite the challenges they had faced, they were now building a future defined by understanding and support, a true testament to the power of love and reconciliation.